Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 6th Rome Med Virtual Dialogue promoted by ISPI and the Italian Minister of Foreign Affairs. As you know, Med Dialogue adjusted to the challenges of COVID-19, organizing a series of virtual meeting seminars and regional virtual dialogue all over the world with experts and policymakers to allow the discussion to continue. These kinds of events will go on until December, when in Rome Med Dialogue will take place in a hybrid format. So physical and digital. It will happen between November the 24th and December the 4th. Now, for today's meeting, I would like to thank again the Italian Minister of Foreign Affairs and also Eni. Unsurprisingly, we'll talk energy. And let me just introduce the two speakers, remarkable speakers we do have here today. Claudio Descalzi, CEO of Eni. Welcome, Descalzi.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Where are you today?
I'm in Rome.
Okay, fantastic. And let's welcome Fatih Birol, who's Executive Director of the International Energy Agency. Welcome, Mr. Birol.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I am in Paris.
Oh, fantastic. So it's the headquarters of the International Energy Agency. So, Mr. Birol, let me start with you, because, you know, the impact of COVID-19 is huge for all the sectors of the economy, but has hit the energy sectors in the middle of the crucial transition to a clean energy. What we saw during the lockdown was a steep decline in energy demand. Then we saw clearly also a steep reduction in greenhouse gases, 17%, now apparently bouncing back pretty fast. At the same time, we saw remarkable volatility in the oil market. How do you assess the main consequences of COVID on the energy sector? Will the transition be slowed down, but what's happening, or will accelerate? What's your take on this?
Thank you very much. First of all, you are completely right. The COVID affected everything. Our economies, our social life, even our lifestyles, everything has been affected. But the energy sector disproportionately affected. But before going to the effect on the energy sector, let me make a remark that sometimes we forget. When we were in these lockdowns at home, in the confinement, it is thanks to the energy sector, we could watch television, we could have information coming around, we could see that the trucks bringing food to the supermarkets. So energy has been the lifeline throughout the lockdown. Without energy, we couldn't survive. The life would be completely paralyzed. So therefore, the security of energy, availability of energy is very important. We understood how essential the energy is. Coming back to the impact on the energy sector, now what we see, Mr. Cabrini, is this year global energy demand is going to decline about 6%, which means, to put in a context, we all remember the financial crisis in 2008. Decline this year is 7 times larger than the decline after the financial crisis. How grave the decline is this time, to put in a context. Oil, very badly affected. Beginning of April, I said, April may be called the Black April in the history of the oil industry. And indeed, we have seen minus oil prices in the US markets. Gas, renewables, they are all affected. Emissions are declining this year. Historic decline in global emissions this year. This year's decline in emissions erases the growth in emissions in the last 10 years. Last year's growth, 10 years, is just this year is compensated. But this decline is, in my view, is not something to be happy about, to be cheerful, because it is not happening as a result of right energy policy of the governments. It is happening because of the economic meltdown and premature deaths of the people. And the question is now whether we will see a big rebound of emissions with the economic recovery or not. And here comes to the issue. This will very much depend on the governments. If the governments put the right energy policies in their recovery packages, stimulus packages, we may well see clean energy transitions to be accelerated and the emissions don't go back where they were, but it is going to continue to decline. So the nerve center of the whole debate here is the once in a generation in scale recovery package of the governments and what energy policies will be included in those packages.
Now, Fatih Birol, how much investment will be needed to get to the path that will drive us to zero emission in 2050? And do you feel like that the government are making the right decision in these directions currently?
Now, it depends on which government we are talking about. Some governments do fully, some governments do less, some governments don't do anything. Europe is definitely one of the leaders of the addressing the climate change very seriously, but I don't want to put a cold shower. European Green Deal is very good in the right direction, but Europe is responsible only 8% of the global emissions. 92% comes from somewhere else. So even if Europe does its best, it is far from being enough to address the global climate challenge. We have to keep an eye on what will happen in Asia, what will happen in the Middle East, and what will happen in Africa. I think these are the key issues, in addition to, of course, Americas and the others. Europe's being a role model is very important. Making this effort is very important, but Europe alone will not bring us to the to reach our energy and climate goals, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was asking this, Mr. Birol, because I think that in one of your most recent reports, you said that investment in clean energy has to go to 3- to 4-fold if we're going to go on the right path in the future. But yes, we know that private investment, industrial investments will decline in 2020, probably will decline in the area of 20%. So exactly, it will need much more public investment will be needed. Are you afraid that, and we'll hear Descalzi in a second, but that as the private sectors and the big oils are forced to reduce and slash their investments, and all the process could be harmed? There's a lot of concern on that.
There is a huge risk that the clean energy transition can be derailed because of the investments which are very, very weak this year. It is throughout the energy sector, but including on solar, wind, and other clean energy technologies. And in that respect, it is very important that the oil and gas companies, which have a lot of experience in the huge complex projects, which has a lot of engineering background, and also deep pockets in many cases, are a part of the solution. They can help many technologies to be maturing faster and to be a part of the solution, such as carbon capture and storage, such as hydrogen, such as offshore wind. There are many, and solar power. There are many technologies like that which can seriously benefit from the engagement of the oil and gas companies around the world. But if you ask me, I see all the oil and gas companies around the world, most of them are engaged, I cannot tell you yes, to be very frank. There are some, but they are not in the majority as we speak now.
Let's hear Claudio Descalzi position on this. First of all, Descalzi, how is your strategy adapting to the new situation, to the impact of COVID in the medium, but also in the long term?
Thank you. Thank you first of all for inviting me and inviting Eni. Clearly, in this situation, the first reaction for a couple of months was to understand what was happening, because we have been impacted twice. From one side, the demand that has been reduced up to 80-90% for a couple of months, now is recovering, and from the other side, the oil and gas price. So we had really a period where we had to revise all our budget, all our plan. We revised for 3 times in terms of capex, opex, variable costs, and fixed costs. So that was the short time. So, and we worked to revise also the long term. We cut our capex and overall our cost of about between 30 and 35%. We just reduce and cut or postpone costs on the oil and gas. So we didn't touch our investment, our plan on the new energy, on the energy evolution. So the renewables, the biogas, all the transformation of our biorefineries. So we kept this investment. Why? Because the volatility that we experience now in the oil and gas is something that we have been experienced for the last 6 years. It's not new. Now with the COVID, we had a really bad impact, but the oil has been volatile. We have to remember 2015 when we went to $27 per barrel, so then as average less than 40, and then 50. So we are really far from the high price. So what we really think that we have to try to be far from this volatility, and the only way to be far from this volatility is to develop a different kind of business, a different kind of platform, and be able to reach decarbonized products, to reach our customers with decarbonized product. That's the future. So it's not just a question of renewables. We are investing a lot in renewables, wind, but especially solar, but also other activities. When Fatih talked about CCS clearly, or CCUS, is necessary to decarbonize the industry. Is necessary also because a real transformation, an energy transition, where you have to invest a lot. We have to really try to be efficient in your investment. So a transformation will be successful only if we are able to maintain as much as possible the existing infrastructures. We cannot change everything. So the decarbonization of the energy sector through the capture of the CO2 is and will be more and more essential. So we are working on two plans. One short term, where we have to be efficient in our cost, and the other medium long term, where we have to accelerate our transformations. And the circular economy is really something that we work for about 6 years with developing new technology that we have already implemented. The biorefinery is an example. We have transformed 2 standard refinery biorefineries that are doing very well. And then waste to fuel, biomass, biogas, and renewables. So we have to move to, I think, stay far from the volatility of oil and gas. And this COVID event, I think, emphasized this issue and is going to accelerate the transformation. We need to believe in it, and we have to understand that we cannot continue for the future without considering that the world is changing, and the future will be different. So technology and strong, I think we have to be so efficient in the capital allocation, also starting different kind of financing that is quite important, and the framework and the regulatory framework, because when you go through green, blue, and bio product, you need also a different kind of framework to help this kind of investment.
Well, Fatih Birol was saying that not every big oil company in the world is acting and behaving in the same way. And it's good to understand and to know that Eni has a priority in the transition to lower carbon energy. But at the same time, if we look at what your colleagues, the big oils, are announcing, they're slashing investments and capex, as you mentioned before. There's also a lot of talk on devaluation, impairment, clearly, but also dividends that can be cancelled or slashed. And are you going to finance the investments in the clean energy with that kind of operation? Do you feel confident in also in the financial resources that you do have and will have to maintain the projects?
Clearly, as upstream, in upstream, we are used to use our equity to invest our equity to invest in our operations. Because you cannot find financing to invest in a so risky, we can say, risky in terms of uncertainty. So like the upstream. When you move to the circular economy, you move to biorefineries or CCS, you are moving in a different kind of sector that is more deterministic, where you can structure your financing in a different way. Europe is quite active from this point of view because we have the Innovation Fund, we have the Recovery Fund, all funding that are really aiming at promoting the green or the new low carbon economy. So I think that we have possible sources to invest. Then we need also the regulatory framework because clearly we have also to consider the competition. Europe, as Fatih said, in terms of emission is very small, and then we have to compete with other countries. And if the other countries don't move in the same direction, then we have the carbon leaks. So I mean, company that can move outside Europe, go in country where there is no stringent rules or tax on the CO2 emission, and then they can really win the competition, but doing not very well from an environmental point of view. So I think that Europe is leading, but it's necessary that the other country is going to follow, and it's absolutely necessary that all the companies try to align on this kind of direction. For what I see, the European companies are quite proactive and active in this kind of energy evolution. I think, and Fatih said, that it's not just Europe. We need a global move.
Absolutely. We'll talk also G20 in the perspective of global cooperation on this. But let me switch a little on another area that we discussed with you both in the past, which is the Mediterranean, in the Middle East, and the northern part of Africa. Fatih Birol, how do you see the impact of COVID-19 on all the crucial lines of the future of energy that many states and companies and powers were drawing into this area, which is really delicate? Do you think that, how about the COVID-19 impact on that, in your opinion?
Very serious, because those countries, at a large extent, they are getting their economic lifeline from oil and gas markets. And second, their infrastructure for their health system is not as robust as it should be. And as a result of that, they're under two major pressure: the economic pressure and at the same time health pressure. Some of the companies, some of the countries are suffering because of the low oil prices affecting their economy, and some of them are also gas exporters. Since for example, Algeria, since their contracts are indexed to oil prices, they are also suffering double from that. Now, I believe it is very important for the international financial institutions to give a hand, to give a support those North African and also sub-Saharan African countries. Africa is almost since 3 decades for the first time going through a recession. This is very serious. And we know the very strong population growth there, and the countries whose economies are relying on the hydrocarbon revenues are getting a major blow. And this is multiplied by the health concerns. So it is the reason I believe, in fact, we organize an Africa ministerial meeting with 14 top African ministers from Egypt to South Africa, from Nigeria to Ethiopia, and Mr. Descalzi kindly also joined to that meeting. The investment in Africa is for energy almost stopped. We talk about globally 20% decline, but in Africa almost stopped. So therefore, the international financial institutions need to be ready to support those countries at this very difficult time. But in the future, looking at a bit long term, I think Africa, it is the time for Africa to look at some of the other resources they have, such as solar energy. If I can give you one example, Mr. Cabrini, one number which is very heartbreaking. Today, when you look at the entire world, 40% of the solar radiation in the world comes to Africa, but only 1% of the solar electricity generation in Africa, 99% rest of the world. 40% potential, 1% use. And this is really heartbreaking, and I am thankful to all those companies who are really helping Africans to access to energy, solar, gas, and others, such as I was discussing with Claudio the other day, and the attention that the ENI is paying, in addition to natural gas, to solar, is something which is really to be underlined.
Well, Descalzi, you're the leader operator in Africa and one of the major in the Mediterranean space. How do you feel about how things are changing after COVID stepped in, and will this accelerate some of the changes that were underway? Where do you see challenges and opportunities there?
As Fatih said, Africa now is, especially in this period, is suffering a lot because from the demand point of view, because there are most of the producing African countries are exporting the oil or their gas, so this price is really impacting the economy and the budget of each country. Then from the other point of view, investment are practically, as we said, stopped and everywhere. And through the oil and gas, that was the source for African countries also to invest in the diversification, so agriculture or other form of industry. So the situation is quite difficult. Africa, as we know, represents about 16-17% of the worldwide population, and they are not using energy. They use 3 or 4% of the worldwide energy. So there is a big gap, more than 600 million people without electricity. So we already are in a very tough situation without energy. As Fatih said at the very beginning, there is no development. You are not able not just to develop, but we are not able to survive. And the situation now is very tough from a health point of view, from an industrial point of view, from a energy access point of view. So clearly we have to help. And how we can help? What we did as ENI in this period, as we said, we stopped some investments, but we are continuing some more investment. We delayed and postponed the big projects, but the project, especially onshore, or project that are linked to access to energy in some different countries are continuing. So we are continuing to deliver gas to Ghana, to Congo, to Angola, to Nigeria for export and for domestic utilization. to Algeria, to Tunisia, to Egypt, to Libya. Libya is practically, we are giving practically 60, 70% of the gas we are producing. So that is the way how we can help them. And from the other side, we are replacing what we call internal consumption in all our operations, where we use gas and we burn gas to produce electricity. We are replacing with renewables. That happened in Algeria, that happened in Ghana, in Pakistan, in Tunisia. So we try to implement a solar industry, solar policy to replace the gas that they are burning. And that is a way not just to, I can say, to create a different kind of energy sector or energy mix that is very useful to reduce emission, also if they are not really producing a lot of emissions. From the Mediterranean north, from the north part of Mediterranean Europe, I think that there are a lot of complementarity. So Italy, for example, we import all our gas, practically all our crude, and the North Africa, they need to develop the resources, and we need this kind of resources. We need to invest there and give not just investment to export, but investment to give access to energy and to change the energy mix. What we are doing in Tunisia in terms of renewables or in terms of development of castor oil we use as a feedstock for our biorefineries, is a way also to increase the investment in a diversified industry, to try to shift from the oil and gas development to a diversified industry that can allow them to live and survive, or live also with a reduced amount of oil and gas. Clearly, if we are at the moment, we are the only one as a company that invested more than 2 billion euro to create about 1 gigawatt of energy in Africa. And so instead of export gas, we develop infrastructures, combined cycle, and also the grid and the network to give gas and sell gas to the domestic market. These kind of initiatives, clearly, we did as a private sector. We did in Ghana also with the help of the World Bank, but clearly it's something that's have to create a different momentum. We have to increase with the help of Europe. I think that for Euro-Africa and the development of Africa is a huge and very important opportunity in sense of energy, in sense of create a continent that can develop their own resources and became a very strong partner for Europe. So that is the way. Clearly, in this moment, you see everything very dark because the situation is so difficult, but we have always to be optimistic and look at the future. And the future for Europe is absolutely Africa.
Well, talking Africa, you mentioned Libya, and exactly last Wednesday, you were on Libya meeting with President Sarraj and the chair of the oil company Naoc. Can you give us an update of the situation, also from your point of view, production and safety and security and so on? And how about the future of Libya? You have very long experience in that.
No, I can't talk about the present future. I know we can talk about 10 years of wars, 10 years of tensions, and our situation clearly is very tough, because after 10 years of war, and especially the last 3 years of very tough war around Tripoli, is not easy. They need electricity. They have a lot of gas because we are giving gas, we are delivering gas, but the power plant after years of lack of maintenance and spare parts are in a bad situation. So there is an issue of energy. They have more than 1 million barrel that is shut off. They are not producing, so they don't have revenue. From a war point of view, the situation a little bit better, I can say, because I flew to Tripoli and I could go there without major problem. But clearly, Libya is playing a very important role for the North Africa and Middle East, and it is clearly a very important country to get a general peace and the possibility to get a real development in North Africa and Middle East. So our operation at the moment are in a, we can say in good shape, considering the situation. They need more energy. They need more help for infrastructures. The infrastructure they have to be updated. But the Libyan population, they are very strong. They are very strong, very resilient. All our people are locals, are Libyans. We have also some expatriates, but most of the people are Libyans, good engineers, very competent, and they are working for their country. So I think that in the medium long run, they will succeed. They need the help of Europe, as you said. Europe is essential. Europe is essential. Turkey is essential, like Russia, like Egypt, like all the Middle East countries. And I think that the love for the human being, the love for the peace have to prevail, and they have to find an understanding. But Libyan are really resilient, and they are really coping very well with this bad situation.
So it's interesting, your points of view, and maybe you will have time to get back a little bit. But I have to move also because there are many questions pouring in from the audience, and I remind you that you can just use the function Q&A on the platform. For Fatih Birol, there's Councillor Nicola Bazzani from the Italian Foreign Affairs Minister, who's a delegate at the G20 latest meetings dedicated to universal access to energy. And he's asking almost everyone at G20 concurred on the fact that energy access equals growth, better quality of life, and higher incomes. Basically, he's asking everyone concurs on the way forward: renewables, decentralized solution, efficiency, electrification. Fossil fuels, especially coal, have failed to eliminate energy poverty. They have exacerbated the problem. Would you agree with the above? It's a question from Nicola Bazzani. And Fatih Birol.
Thank you very much. Yes, today in sub-Saharan Africa, as I said, 1 out of 2 people, they have no electricity. And 20 years ago, the electricity problem was a problem of China, India, and Africa. China fixed that problem 10 years ago, and only 2-3 years ago, India fixed that problem. The problem, access to electricity, became now only or mainly an African problem. Now, in Africa, we have a lot of solar, we have a lot of hydropower, wind, and geothermal energy. And this will be natural solutions, distributed solutions to that. But if the African countries want to make use of their natural gas resources also to generate electricity, I believe they should do so. I want to put this in a context. Africa is close to 20% of global population and emits less than 2% of the global emissions. So therefore, we cannot say Africans only renewables or nothing. They should make the best solutions, cheapest solutions for them, because affordability is the key issue. And here, renewables are number 1, but also in some cases, natural gas can be another good solution. If I make 2 quick remarks, since I have the ear of the foreign ministry, next year Italy will lead the G20, And I very much hope that the energy will take an important role in the G20 deliberations of the Italian government. And as IEA has done with the Japanese G20, Saudi's G20 this year, we are ready to support the Italian government. Finally, Europe and Africa. Only looking from the energy perspective, sources, technology, capital, interest, demand, supply, this could be a real Catholic marriage, in my view, Europe and Africa. Just many years together without having another agenda, helping each other, benefiting both through energy, non-energy, social areas. This could be an excellent, ideal marriage, in my view. Many years with a happy life between these two wonderful continents.
That's a very good idea. But let me move to Claudio Descalzi. Do you agree with Fatih Birol on this? And there's a question from one of the attendees regarding any presence in sub-Saharan Africa. Is there a strategy in place in developing the renewable potential for the long and medium term? Descalzi.
First point, I agree with the idea of Fatih to have a marriage or a big wedding between Europe and Africa, because as I said, we are complementary and we can help each other clearly from an energy point of view without any political agenda, because then we can maybe destroy value, and we have really to think about people. There are a lot of people in Africa that are dying, not just for pandemic, but for poverty. So we have to consider this point is an essential point. And I think that if Europe can really move together to help Africa, at the end of the day, is going to help itself, because Europe has no energy. Europe has a big market, one of the biggest markets, but it's completely an empty box from energy point of view. We cannot say we are promoting renewable, but as Fatih said, we cannot say in Africa, but also in Europe, to replace everything with wind and solar. It's not possible. We can say what we want, we can try, but it's not possible. So I think that we need to help each other. For sub-Saharan, we work a lot on the access to energy. And Fatih said and gave the figures, the numbers of what sub-Saharans are practically producing in terms of emissions. Nothing, because they are not using their own energy. We used their energy for 60, 70, 80 years, and we on the energy, on the base of energy of Africa, we develop our countries. So I think that now it's time for them to use energy, especially their own gas, to develop themselves. Now the technology is very advanced, so you can use gas, you can decarbonize gas. There are a lot of depleted reservoirs, so you can use the CCS also in Africa. We are storage gas in Africa. We can storage also CO2. And we are developing solar. We are developing solar in Ghana, as I said, in Congo. We have projects for Angola, for Mozambique. But that is not enough, also because they say to us, you use our energy for 60, 70 years, and now you want, because you produce so much CO2 that we use renewables, we don't use our resources. That was the statement that the Minister of Ghana during the big meeting organized by Fatih with the 40 ministers from Africa said. It was quite upset. Said, now you prevent us to use our energy. We have to create an energy mix. In the energy area is not just one prevalent or one main source. There are different kinds of sources, and the aim is to reduce the carbon footprint, go toward renewable, decarbonizing gas, but there is no religion. It's not an ideological point. We have to balance all the best resources we have with the aim to decarbonize. And we have to give the chance to Africa, to all the countries to use their own resources and helping them to reach this target.
Well, Fatih Birol mentioned the fact that Italy next year will host for the first time the G20. There's already a project to promote a more sustainable business model of development. But I would like to understand your point of view on the most effective agenda that Italy could use to promote this into the global G20. And if you feel like that global cooperation can enhance all the trends that you were discussing so far. Descalzi.
It's for me. I thought that was for Fatih.
No. No, Fatih mentioned G20, and I want to ask you, how do you feel about the perspective and how Italy can take the chance?
I think that Italy is doing very well, and as Europe, in terms of green energy or decarbonized energy and circular economy from refineries, where we are working a lot, and Italy has really very challenging and positive target for the futures. So I think for a continent like Europe, that, as I said, there is no fossil fuel. We have fossil fuel in Europe. Italy, no, but in Europe we have. But it's going down. It's depleting. They are in the tail of their life. So I think that renewable is absolutely crucial. Fatih talked about wind that could be used in the north of Europe and solar in the south, but it's not enough. It's not enough because we are not able to satisfy all the energy needs, the energy growth, and the security and energy security. So when we talk about CCS, we talk to decarbonize the existing gas energy production, for example. That is what in Europe, the European community in the last statement, Timmermans talk about hydrogen, green hydrogen, blue hydrogen, or decarbonized gas and decarbonized LNG. So I think that from my point of view, from my perspective, Europe has a lot of infrastructures, a lot of power plants. We still have a lot of gas that we imported from Norway and Russia that clearly is less impacted. So we have to enable the system, the industry, to decarbonize these gas and to use this infrastructure. And I'm sure that we can reach the target for Europe to be carbon-free by 2050. From our point of view, I talk about my company, Eni, with the long-term plan that we set up, and it's not just aspiration, but real target in terms of decarbonization. We set also different kind of target along the line from now to 2050. Our target is to reach in 2050 to be completely decarbonized, so zero carbon footprint in Europe and 80% worldwide, but with a scope 1 and scope 2 of our activity, zero carbon emission by 2040. So we set up a target based on an industrial plan, not just aspirational. I want to reach this. No, we run all the sensitivities, all the capital allocation, all the cash flow result from the different kind of scenarios, and we develop the technology that we have in our hand. So from my point of view, I think that is the way that we have to follow. And we have the big chance in Italy to have one of the biggest, potentially biggest CCS in the world, in the Ravenna, in the Adriatic Sea. And that will be so useful, not just for Eni, but also for third parties, so other, and also for the neighboring countries. So that is something that as a Europe, we can use, we can exploit to decarbonize our industrial.
Well, so gentlemen, I've got plenty of questions, but we have kind of 10 minutes left. So I'm asking you to have very short answers if you can. For Mr. Birol, a couple of questions. First, do you see border carbon tax as an effective measure to prevent carbon leakage? And secondly, another question, considering the evolution of the world's energy demand, which will have to be met by a reduction in fossil fuels, Mr. Birol, do you think that renewable sources will be sufficient also in view of population growth? Or do you think that the new nuclear technology, fusion, could play a role? Fatih Birol.
So thank you very much. For the carbon tax, I think this is from an economic theory perspective, this is the best way to reduce emissions. If you make the cost of something that you don't want to be used higher, then there'll be less demand for it. This is very simple. But if you ask me, this economically very good idea can be applicable in today's real world context, carbon tax across the world, I would say no. If you go today, especially now that the economies are bleeding around the world, if you go to Asia, emerging countries, Africa, Latin America, say that I want to make your energy more expensive, putting a carbon tax, I think your chances to have a yes, of course, answer from the ministers are close to zero. Everybody tries to recover the economies. Therefore, at the moment, there are areas such as Europe, some parts of United States, New Zealand, and so on, putting carbon tax, yes, but global carbon tax is, in my view, a dream. The second thing is renewables are growing very strongly. They will have a very strong growth, but we need other energy sources, such as nuclear power, in my view, carbon capture and storage. And Claudia mentioned gas in Africa. Now, renewables are almost exclusively used in the electricity generation. We are not talking about the clean electricity transition. We are talking about the clean energy transition. Electricity is not equal to energy. If you want to have in Africa a food industry, you cannot run the food industry, textile industry, iron steel with the solar and wind. You need higher temperature fuels such as gas and others. Therefore, we shouldn't be focused only on renewables. They are the backbone, definitely, but we need others such as, in my view, in some cases nuclear, in the others CCUS, in the others natural gas.
All right, Claudio Descalzi, finally 3 flashes for you from the audience. First, there's a question about ideas for transborder projects for connecting electricity from Africa to Europe. Does Eni have any perspective in contributing to these ideas in the future? So projects about connecting Africa and Europe from renewable resources and electricity. And secondly, again, on Africa, how do you think that the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam impact will be or reshape the energy market once it will be fully operating? And the very final question is about the gas potential of East Mediterranean for Europe and Italy. And from the audience, they say, yes, Libya is very important, but how much gas from Cyprus, Israel, and Egypt could help for energy security in Europe? I understand it's quite a lot, but if you can just wrap it up in a few sentences, Descalzi.
First of all, the one interesting point is really to use the huge area in Africa, in Sub-Saharan, in the desert, to produce renewable, and then link this renewable, this energy to Europe, to Italy, through an electroduct, through a cables. We can say that we have some project that we are starting with Terno, with our Italian company, And that would be a good point. I think that that can help because in Italy we don't have enough space to cover with all in the south all the solar, and that can solve these possible issues and can improve energy in Africa and give enough to the south and to Italy and to the south of Europe, and that is under study. The other issue of gas in the Mediterranean, gas in the East Mediterranean. So I think that the gas in this area, if we consider Libya, Egypt, Cyprus, Lebanon, Israel, is really huge. It's really huge, and it's something that we start working on as a global project, we think that without these tensions that we have, because we have tensions in Libya, and so it's not easy to aggregate gas Libya, and the gas from Libya with Egypt is not easy to develop the Cyprus gas. That is another issue. So, and then Israel that start giving gas to Egypt, and then we can ship through LNG. The real possible potential, our estimation is in about 10,000 billion cubic meters. So it's a really huge amount of gas. And we have a connection through pipe in Libya, and we have LNG in Egypt. So that really is gas that can reach Europe and the south of Italy, that became a hub for Europe at a very low price. So that's a possible opportunity. At the moment, we are stuck, unfortunately. Then finish.
It was the Ethiopian dam, the Renaissance Dam in Ethiopia.
Ethiopian dam, the issue between Egypt and Ethiopia. Yes, that is an issue because clearly, if we reduce I think it's something that Ethiopia and Egypt are discussing. But if you reduce the amount of water, the flow of water to Egypt is quite a big issue from agriculture. That is one of the main issues. We know everybody they are discussing. We know that Egypt started getting ready to this situation, creating more energy. In this case, renewable can help a lot, but clearly remain an issue. And that is more a discussion between the two countries. They talk to each other. It's not my role to tell them.
No, I understand. I understand perfectly.
It's a touchy subject.
Okay. Now, and my very last questions comes from the market reporter, which is talking to you. And as you know, COVID is changing everything, but some parts of the old world are still there trying to rule some parts of the market, including oil prices. Today, an OPEC meeting is underway as we speak. And what do you expect, starting with Fatih Birol, not just from today's meeting, but in the medium term, from the average prices of oil? What are you seeing? What does your experience tells you? After shockingly during COVID, we also saw negative prices, unprecedented again. Fatih Birol, what's your take on this?
Yeah, in fact, beginning of April, I said to press that the April may well go in the history of the oil industry as the Black April. And indeed, we have seen minus prices for the first time, maybe last time in the US markets. But now it is there is a gradual rebalancing of the markets, and I believe $40 and so will be the price level we may see in the next months to come with the recovery of the global oil demand as the lockdown is lifted gradually around the world, and the global economy is showing some signs of strengthening in some parts of the world, especially in Asia.
Claudio Descalzi?
So, generally speaking, clearly I agree with Fatih that is our master in this kind of things. He's really he knows everything. But from our point of view, we think that we thought an average of $40 for this year, and that is our scenario with easy. A slight increase in 2021. The reason that it depends on OPEC, clearly, if they keep these cuts, and then we have a lot of storage. So we have to digest a lot of crude that has been stored in the last months, and the degree of recovery. The recovery is going well in Europe, but as we know, COVID, the impact of COVID is spread around in a different kind of phase and level. And in Europe is finished, in other countries growing. So there is, I think that before the first half of 2021, we cannot have a full recovery or a full balance, demand and supply. So that are my forecasts for this year and next year.
All right, wonderful. You did great. Thanks again, Claudio Descalzi and Fatih Birol. But before we're done, I think there's one last thing from the organizers. Yes, what you see is a survey that we ask you kindly to complete after we are done. It's an evaluation survey of this seminar we just had. And yeah, I think that now we are really done. Thanks again, Claudio Descalzi, Fatih Birol, and all of you to be so active also with your questions during our MED dialogue. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you.